Hello, wonderful people. We are here today on the Believe Show with a really close friend and colleague of mine who is Kathryn Britton. Hi, Kathryn.
Hey, lovely to be here.
Let me tell you a few things about Kathryn, then we're going to dive right into what Kathryn believes that other people may not agree with her on. Okay, a few things about Kathryn. Kathryn is amazing. She's incredible. I really, really like her a lot. But you may not know Kathryn yet. Kathryn is an executive coach, and she's worked with tons of people, coaching them at high-tech, large companies, multinational companies. She also has this amazing thing that she does, which is she leads writers' workshops. A lot of them, and I've been in her writers workshops, and it has helped me with my writing so much. Kathryn, how many pieces approximately have gone through your writers workshops in terms of pieces, blog posts or chapters or stories that people have submitted?
About 2,165.
Over 2,000 pieces that Kathryn has shepherded. So that's some background on Kathryn. And when Kathryn and I spoke about what is it that she believes, we've actually spoken about this over the years. So I'm thrilled that she's bringing it here to you. And I know some of the people who join us regularly, so I think you'll especially enjoy this, given the big picture of you're working at a company or on your own, and you also have home responsibilities. How do you manage everything? And how do you find your own way, especially long term? Hi, Kathryn.
Okay, hello, Sonia.
Kathryn, what field would you describe yourself as being in?
I guess I would consider myself to be both a coach and a writing coach at this point. But I'm also a technology person. I spent about 30 years working for the United States Navy on software engineering research and IBM on networking protocols and products. And so I am a moved on technology person who now works with technology people, so that a lot of times I feel like, okay, I've seen this particular situation before. We used to have a saying among my friends at IBM that the half-life of an idea is about 5 years. And so you keep hearing the same ideas come around and you say, I've heard that before. Maybe 5 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. And then it comes up and it's really new again. So I guess part of what I found in my own technology career was that dealing with people and dealing with people effectively is actually more important, at least for the kind of work that I was doing, than necessarily being up on every single technology that was going by.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love how you just say a moved on technology person.
That's the way.
Helping
Okay.
other technology people. So given that, and actually I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't say that in my intro. Yes, you have years of technology experience. You coach executives now. You coach writers. Given all that, if we just kind of check in with some of your deep beliefs, what is something that you believe to be true that others in your field would not agree on?
I believe that it's not necessary to always have big goals that you're striving for. And I believe this because I certainly got asked multiple times in my technology career, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 5-year goal? And I used to make things up, kind of like, okay, I got to answer this. But I don't actually operate that way. I don't actually think in terms of I've got to get from here to there. I might end up having a goal at a particular time, like we have a product we need to develop, we need to ship it on a certain date. That kind of goal I understand. But the kind of goal where people come and say, what's your goal? And I just don't work that way. So, and I actually had a coach for a while who was very, very goal oriented. And I found that it just doesn't really work for me to try to sit down and figure out what is my big stretch goal or my big overarching goal. That's the way I work, is to think about, I like to be doing something that is very, very interesting and always stretching me a little bit. So it's on the edge of what I know how to do, not too far off the edge. I don't want to be thrown completely into a swimming pool, that I without knowing how to swim. But I always like to be stretching. But I do it. It's like there's a certain serendipity to the way I've lived my life. Okay, so you might look at me and say, okay, did you have any idea when you were in your 20s where you would end up? No, actually, I made several really sharp turns over my life, where I went from being an English major in college to being a computer scientist for the Navy, and then I went to IBM, where I knew almost nothing about networking and learned it on the fly. And when I was in, considerably later in life, I won't go into details about when, coming to going to school and getting the master's in applied positive psychology, and then saying, oh, I'd like to be able to figure out a way of using that. So it's this openness to serendipity of being able to move and change direction that has been the way I've lived my life. And I just wanted to open it up to people to say, if people keep coming after you and saying, what's your big goal? Maybe you could step back and say, is that the way I operate? Do I need a big goal? Yeah. So this is why I wanted us to be talking about what you might call find your own way, because it might be that finding a big goal or doing things the way everybody says they should be done isn't really your way. I'll take a breath and let you see if you respond to that a little.
I have two ways to respond. One is I completely can see this as a counterintuitive belief, especially in our field of executive coaching, because we have so many terms for goals. We have SMART goals. We have BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goal. It's a little bit the holy grail of. In fact, it's even, in a sense, it's part of the structure of a coaching engagement. So it doesn't have to be a goal, to your point, but usually we definitely want to know what's the outcome that the person's going to, or what direction. So I absolutely hear what you're saying, as in contrast to a lot of what is prevalent in anything from self-help literature to how to be a good manager, how to be a good leader. So I love that you're bringing this to us and saying, hey, goals are one way, but maybe direction or your way is a different way to approach being successful in life.
I'd love to speak to that just a little. When I was going through coaching training, and I kept hearing, you help the client set goals, and then you help the client, further, take action to move towards their goals. And for lots of people that works. But I had one client, and you always learn from these individuals that you work with. I mean, I'm always learning from the people I work with. So I had this one client, he never would do anything that we came up with for actions. And I was kind of getting frustrated and thinking, am I any value here? And finally, one day he said, working with you for me, it's a little bit like being in one of those old-fashioned dance floors where there's a balcony upstairs. And he said, what happens when I'm talking to you is I get to climb up the stairs to the balcony and look down at what's happening on the dance floor from above. And I get a picture of what's going on. And once I finish that, I can climb back down the stairs onto the dance floor and take up the dance again. So for him, just being able to talk through things and get a clearer idea what was going on, he didn't need me to help him figure out what actions to take. He needed me to be able to talk through, what am I experiencing? What does it mean? How should I? And then he could figure out where to take it from there. So I've always liked I think it's coach training who says that to further the action and deepen the learning. I've always liked the fact that there's the deepen the learning side as well as the further the action side, because some people, that's what they need. Not so much, okay, they know how to they know how to get things done, but sometimes they need to have clarity of what's in front of them. I will also tell you that I figured out early in my career that I was a great second in command. I've actually been the person in command a few times, but I'm not the person who wants to say, okay, what direction are we going to move? That's the direction the market's going to be in a certain period of time. That's not my kind of thinking. My kind of thinking is somebody says that's the direction we're going to go, and I'll go, okay, then we need to take this step and 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 this step to get there, and I can make it happen with the people who are working on it. Mm-hmm. but I want somebody else to be taking that longer picture, that longer vision. And so after a few years of trying to make myself into the visionary, I finally realized, okay, maybe the world needs a few second in commands.
We have a lot of people on this session, and I want to ask them, what do you find moves you further? So is it something like where you do set the goal, or is it something like where you have a direction that you're moving to? Kathryn, as people are typing in, and I'm really just asking you, all the people with us today, does a goal motivate you, or does a direction motivate you? Kathryn, can you say a few words about direction so that people can see what that distinction really is about goal and your way or your direction?
Well, first of all, I want to make it really clear. I'm not saying I don't like goals at all, okay? But what I'm thinking of it is it's just like getting back to the visionary. Who's the visionary? You need somebody to say, this is the direction the company needs to go, okay? I don't find personally, for my personal life, I don't find that having a long-term goal does anything for me, okay? And I guess part of what I'm saying is I like being somewhat more nimble on, like, okay, I was working on a project one time where the word came down from Caesar Augustus that we're not going to build that project anymore. So the whole thing got stopped. Well, I took a deep breath, started on a new project. I did not find myself completely discombobulated by that.
That happens a lot, and that happens in so many businesses because priorities change. But you're saying this actually makes you nimble in the, so I'm going to put this up as one of the benefits of finding your way. It makes you more nimble and more agile and more responsive to changes in the wind.
Right. This was a project that we've been working on for several years, and they actually came in and said, you need to remove all of your notes and all of your specifications and everything that you've written about this, and you need to bring it to the shredder, and we need to see you shred it. Okay, because of tax reasons, that there couldn't be any of the design left over. Well, it's not easy to see all of the stuff that you produced over a period of a couple of years go through the shredder, but sometimes it's necessary. And so I guess what I'm saying is if my direction, if my driving force is I want to be doing something interesting, I want to be doing something that stretches me, I want to be doing something that's a contribution, then if one particular way gets blocked, there's other ways to be stretched, there's other ways to be interested, and there's other ways to contribute.
Can you give me an example? So you've given this one about, and what a cool analogy about a client who said, hey, my discussions with you are at the balcony level and I'm getting the insight, I'm deepening the learning, and then I can take care of actually finding my partner and going out on the dance floor on my own. No, thank you very much, Coach. Can you give me an example that you've seen either in a coaching client or in a colleague where you can tell that distinction, that somebody is more motivated by a direction or by their way and almost demotivated by goals?
That I'm not sure I can come up with some. I can come up with myself. I don't know necessarily. I'm having a little bit of trouble coming up with a specific example of somebody that I found this to be the case. I do think that it's part of what you do as a coach is you listen for what it is that people really need, right? And so instead of you coming in with a particular, this person needs a goal, this person needs, X, Y, and Z, or that you be able to take, when people say, what do you want to achieve, that they be able to express it in either very, very concrete and specific terms, or these more generic, these are the qualities that, of the success I want to achieve, rather than this is the success I want to achieve. I'm sort of fishing here for my answer.
So I wonder, some of the things that I read during my PhD research were on outcome goals versus learning goals. And one of the things I'm hearing you say when you say, hey, some people are really motivated by working on something interesting and that stretches them a bit, that seems like a learning goal. There might not be a here's the outcome, but you're constantly moving in a direction. I'm not sure if that term fits for you, but I'm just saying what you're describing sounds like, hey, listening for a leader, that they don't have an outcome goal, but they have a learning goal or a direction they want to move in, or something that stretches them. That's really valuable for a coach to do, to not push them for an outcome when really what they want is a direction opening or a learning.
It could be. I guess I think of, when I talk about learning, for me, the learning is intrinsically valuable. Okay, so which is to say, I'm not learning for the purpose of getting to a particular place.
Yep.
I'm not doing the learning in order to know a particular thing. I'm learning because the learning itself is really fun for me. So my husband and I, and it's one of the things that's been really special to me about my marriage, is that my husband and I share this particular thing, and so I read aloud to him all the time. And we've read books about physics, about history. We're reading The Splendid and the Vile right now about World War II, during the Blitz during World War II, which is really fun to read because it's very, very tense, but you know the outcome. Right now we're living through a time that's very, very tense, and we don't know the outcome. So it's kind of fun to be able to step back and read something where you can get really on the edge of your seat, but you know what happens at the end.
Yeah. I love your idea. So I love it, the idea. And I question that about things as well. Do people have to, I question when somebody is so firm about their goal. Well, because life is so unpredictable. Nobody knew coronavirus was going to happen. There's so much unpredictability, like you're saying, the nimbleness. So I wonder, Kathryn, do you have a question or a way of figuring out when you're speaking with someone, whether they're more of a goals person or a finding your way person?
Senya, you keep getting me to create on the fly. How about I answer? I had a different thought that went through my mind just a minute ago, and I'll let that one percolate in the back of my mind.
So I was asking you. No, so I was asking you if people. I don't know about people. I don't know when I meet a person. How can I find out for them if they want to do the goal, if they want to do the more open-ended finding your way? So when that comes up, yeah, what do you think?
Okay. Well, I think that one of the things that you can do is to kind of get people to maybe just sort of project themselves forward. And one of the coaching exercises that sometimes people use. You kind of, it's as if you've gone way up into space, and then you've come down into your future, like 20 or 30 years away, right? And then you have a conversation with yourself. So here's the you that's right here, and there's the you that's right there. And one of the things that falls by the wayside there is any kind of short-term goal or any kind of particular accomplishment. It doesn't really matter, right? Because the things that I did for IBM back in 1994, I can't even remember what they were, right? So those, if I were talking to myself in the past, I wouldn't be thinking about really, really specific things I was trying to accomplish. But I might be able to say things like, value the people that you work with, because the connections that you have today will, you have no idea how those connections will actually play out in your life in the future. And so,
Let me just announce that we're live, and it's totally normal for phones to ring and so on. I often have doors opening with kids coming in, so this is just part of life, and we welcome it.
Yes, and we have something on our AT&T right now where if AT&T figures out that it's a spam call, it only rings once. So every time that happens, my husband goes, "Score!" It's like
a win. It's a win.
Yes, it's a win. So I guess that's a way of taking a long view, of saying to yourself, who do I want to turn into, and what can I do today that such that when I am, and think about the people who are 30 years older than you are, and you think about what it is that they particularly value, and and that, if you can kind of try to put yourself in those shoes, I will tell you about, and this, I'm a little bit of a random walk here, but my godmother, who's one of the most wonderful people in my life, one of the things that was said about her at her funeral was that she lived every stage of life for itself without looking back and missing the things that were in the past, and without looking forward and wishing for the things that are in the future. Which meant that when she was a young mother, she wasn't wishing her kids to grow up quickly so that she could get past this stage. When she was in her 80s, and she found ways to enjoy the benefits that came with that particular age. And so when I talk to myself in the future, if I think in those terms, I might be thinking in terms of, what is it that you're doing now that's going to make it possible for me to really live a healthy, connected life, at age whatever. And I'm not going to tell you what 30 years in the future would be.
We have a bunch of people who have made comments on whether they're more goal directed or more direction, finding their way directed. So I'm going to post those in just a minute. That distinction of, look, I don't remember the specific product that I made on this specific date at IBM, but at the same time, the learnings that came from it, things that you can reapply. So I'm hearing what you're saying with finding your way as being at that, almost, this might sound a little like magical, but that on that timeless plane of, I am figuring out the bigger picture. So your question really makes sense for me. What's valuable when you look in the future? Not what goal do you want to be at, but what's valuable when you look in the future?
Right. So,
okay, let me show you what some people say when we're giving them the question of, are you a goals or a find your way person? We have Lee saying, I trust my judgment, but I find validation invaluable. I like that terminology, validation invaluable. If I need course correction, I very much value that learning opportunity. So feedback is fabulous. Lee's comment is very similar to Rog's comment, which is, I love it, knowing yourself and awareness of that. And what works for others doesn't have to work for you. Find your way. I think you two are on the same wavelength. And he's also saying, now I know what to tell people when they ask vision, that I'm a great second in command, that I figure out and execute the strategy. Voila, that's really cool. So we asked for people who do this, and you said, well, I have an example of me and an example of my husband. There you go. Here's another example.
Terrific.
And then we have Brian. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing, a word I want to throw in is, I'm a big experimentalist, which is to say, and I say this because I had opportunities when I was working at IBM where people would say, would you go and do this? And I'd think, oh, I don't know how to do that. And what I finally decided that I would do is I would give myself a 6-month period of time. I would go do it, and at the end of 6 months, I would decide, okay, this works for me or this doesn't work for me, which is to say not everything works. So I got sent to a marketing department for about 6 months, and at the end of it, it was like, get me out of here. But I didn't know ahead of time whether I was going to like it or not. And so right. I took the experiment and tried it out as a way of learning, thinking it might be something that would broaden my vision. Maybe it did that, but I certainly didn't want to stay.
In fact, one of the first articles that we often send to clients that have a coaching engagement with us as Silicon Valley Change is we send your article. Think of it as an experiment. Think of the things that you're going on as an experiment, a trial.
Yes.
Here's what one other person says. Brian says, I make progress when someone helps me see how a breakdown I'm experiencing can be a potential breakthrough opportunity.
Oh,
thank you, Brian.
Like those words.
Yeah.
Maybe you should invite Brian back to talk about that.
Breakdown to breakthrough. Brian, you're on. Kathryn, I'm going to take the experimental off. As we come to the conclusion of today's broadcast for people, what is one thought you would like to leave people with?
I would like people to remember, and this actually is useful both living your own life and watching your kids live theirs, that there are all kinds of different ways to live life. And there are all kinds of things where it may seem like people have reached a dead end, and there may be discouragement and whatever. You may think, well, why are my children doing that? Why are they that? There's there's all kinds of timetables. There's all kinds of different ways to live life. There's not just one way to get through it. And your way, is a matter of finding through experimentation what really works for you, without feeling like you have to meet other people's expectations or tell other people something really, really highfalutin if they ask you what your 5-year plan is.
To Rag's point, yeah, it's okay, the vision thing. Thank you so much. I have one additional question. If you could snap your fingers and have everybody or almost everybody in the world do something, take some action, what would that be?
I guess it would be a combination of self-compassion and seeing themselves in community. So I think that we need to be able to find our own ways, but we also need to find our own ways in the context of the community, our local community, our company community, our whatever. And so that we need to it isn't just about finding your own way, but it's finding your own way in a context. And so finding a way that you can be yourself, but also serve. And so that would be my hope is that everybody finds a way that they can serve, their own way to serve.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kathryn. We've been here today with Kathryn Britton, and we've been talking about finding your own way. Come and join us every day, Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific. We'll be here with new broadcasts that can help you with business and with life. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Kathryn.
Thank you.